This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 174.
And that can be addicting. That's another thing for new people. You have a couple of wins and you start feeling good.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. Who has an indentured servant baker he purchased? What? Clay Trader.
Yeah, you heard that right. I do have an indentured servant baker. But just let me explain things real quick. Our youth group at church, they raise money for a youth convention that they go to, and they do an auction where they have to come up with a service on their own that they are willing to provide, and then people auction to buy that service, to buy that product or whatever. And one of the girls was like, I will bake you one baked good per month for an entire year. So I'm thinking, that sounds good to me because I love my sweets. I love my donuts. So my wife and I, we bid hard. We're eating some expensive baked goods every month, but that's okay because it goes for a good cause. But and now I refer to her, Anna is her first name. You know, I always give her a hard time. Like, yeah, you're my indentured servant over the next year. But she is a good baker. She makes some good stuff. But Ches, yeah, how do you feel about? I mean, you're not judging me, are you? That I'm like back in the medieval days with an indentured servant.
I mean, I didn't think you're going to go so colonial out there in Michigan, but apparently, yeah, you got your own personal baker and stuff like that. So all you people out there that think, Clay is just a modest guy, no, he's going to have a car wash person come next. He's going to have lawn service, children, emphasis on the word children. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's pretty cool though. I'm actually kind of jealous. There is
no modesty here. I like the way you put that. I have my own personal baker. But that might be the first. I don't know if any other websites out there or whatever. I mean, the fancy cars, pretty typical, exotic vacations.
I was gonna say, I think you got some good marketing material.
Beautiful women.
Trade some penny stocks and get your own baker. I like that. I think we
need to do a photo shoot with me and you, surrounded by donuts and
baked goods. Yep.
Yeah, baked goods and cookies and. I think that may be the holy grail of marketing, to get people to sign up for your penny stock services. Is, hey, this is what you get. But that's good stuff. Anyways, that's why I love these fun facts and not telling Ches what they are. For listeners, if you're not aware, Ches honestly has no idea what they are, because that way it keeps it genuine. But it just spurs on nice little quips like we had back and forth. So that's some really good stuff. Anyways, let's move on to today's show. Today we are talking with Evans with an S. I screwed that up. But he's more better known, for those of you that are active in the chat room and community, as Reboot. He's been around. He's relatively new, as you're going to learn. And, he's one of these guys, which you'll learn that, I don't have anything good to talk about, but he was still gracious enough to spend some time and tell us his story. And just as Ches and I suspected, there's all sorts of good little nuggets in here, from things that he's done, things that he's learned, things that he wished he could kind of have a redo over. So, I mean, a lot of good stuff here. So without further ado, let's hear from Evans, a.k.a. Reboot. All right, first off, what do you want me to call you, Reboot or Evan?
You've already got it wrong, Clay. You got to say Evans with an S.
Evans with an S. Yeah. So you would like me to call you Evans?
Yeah, you can call me.
You
can call me Evans during this interview.
Are you offended if I call you Reboot?
I will not be, actually.
Okay, because that's, in my mind, Evans doesn't really mean much to me except on the pod or on the webinars on Tuesdays. Gotcha. I just know you now as Reboot in the chat room. So if that doesn't offend you,
not at all.
I'll probably refer to you as that.
Not at all.
Ches, what are you going to call him? Are you going with Evans or Reboot?
I'm probably going to go with Reboot because, like you said, that's how I know him in the community. So I'll probably do that accidentally, even though I know it's Evans. But we'll see. I might change it up, spice it up for the listeners a little bit.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and for that's a good point, because for you listeners, we're always commenting about voices and stuff like that. So Reboot and Evans is the same person. Ches and I are not referring to like external voices or different people. It is one of the same. But my plan, Ches's plan, it sounds like we're going to go with Reboot. So with that being said, Reboot, where did all this get started for you? You said you've listened to past podcasts, so I know this question here isn't shocking. But I mean, going back to the start, where did you first hear about the market? And kind of what eventually started to happen or occurred that got you interested enough to the point where you're like, you know what, I want to get a little bit more hands-on.
Well, basically, I feel like I've known about the market for a long time, probably back in my teenage years. I know that my dad had some stock and he inherited some stock from his dad, which ironically, a few years ago, I got to help him get straight because he still physically had paper, the actual stock physical pieces of paper in a lockbox. And it was kind of cool to go through. He had old Esso. You ever heard of Esso?
Yeah, the utility, right?
Southern? Yeah, used to be Exxon, or Esso was Exxon in the beginning. And he had a lot of blue chip stocks. So I've known about the market, but haven't really, known about until I maybe got into college. I was a business major, so I think there was a class or two that we may have touched in on how the market operates, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't get real active until I would say the mid 90s. We had this supper club that my wife and I were part of, and we had started. And there was a guy that was in our supper club that was doing a lot of investing on his own in the market. And he was pretty smart about it, talked about it a lot. And we decided, hey, let's start or it may have been him, but he said, y'all interested in starting an investment club where we get, 8 to 10 people of us together, and more money per month allows us to have a little bit more leverage, purchase more shares, blah, blah, blah. And so we did start this investment club, and we actually not incorporated it, but even filed for a partnership. His mother, this particular person's mother, was a CPA, I believe. So she handled our taxes, and she even got the partnership together, and we were called Palmetto Investment Partners or Partnership.
Clay, did you know you were going to be on a podcast with a professional financial analyst, manager, and stellar fund manager here? Did you know that today?
I didn't know I was going to be on a podcast with somebody that's actually seen physical stock certs before. I think that may be the first from the lockbox. But yeah, on both accounts. See, you know what, yeah. Reboot? I'm going to unload on you here for a quick second.
Okay.
Here you are in the chat room. Oh, I got nothing to say. I got nothing to talk about. And as Ches just pointed off, we're off to a great start. So for a quick plug to you other community members, if you don't think you have anything to say, I assure you, you probably have a much more interesting story than what you believe. Am I right there, Ches?
Absolutely. That's how it always is.
So Reboot, I knew it. You don't even get me started, Reboot. You were being so over dramatic. But yeah, this is some good stuff. So it goes from a supper club to tater tots and tickers. Yep. And then you want to start to incorporate.
Well, let me tell you a little bit more about this club, though, because
please do.
Because back then, the internet wasn't anything like it is now, and in fact, he wanted us to learn more about how markets and fundamentals and whatnot. But in order to do any research on companies or whatnot, we had to go to the library, actually physically go to the library. And if I recall, there was a book, it might have been a Standard & Poor's book. My memory fails me a little bit, but you could look up all the fundamentals of companies. But we did have a couple of rules or guidelines for our investments in order to keep our overhead down. And we only invested in companies that paid dividends. And to take it one step further, they had to have dividend reinvestment dividend reinvestment programs. So that kind of limited what we would invest in, but the purpose was it would help grow our account over time, and any dividends would just automatically be reinvested into shares. We didn't have to worry about cashing dividend checks and all that. And
so this is a little bit slower than the high stakes world of day trading at this point. Which, there's absolutely nothing.
I didn't even know there was day trading, and I don't even know if I'm sure it existed in some way, shape, or form back then, but not like we know it now.
Yeah, it's definitely taking a different form. But I gotta ask you, I might be jumping a little bit ahead here. How did you guys do with that kind of investment strategy? Because that's pretty sound and has paid pretty well for many, many years. But I want to hear from you.
We did pretty well. I don't have figures in front of me. In fact, I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't even know if I would be able to put my hands on any of those things because that was 20 plus years ago. I might have some paperwork somewhere in a file, but I know that most of the things that we invested in were blue chip or along those lines. So most of them did go up. We did invest. Our dividends got reinvested. We seldom used a broker. Oftentimes, we could actually buy stock directly through the company itself and keep our costs down. That was the big thing. Because I think back then, as you've mentioned in some of your podcasts and just general knowledge before the internet and E-Trade and all the online brokers, I mean, it would cost, if you went to a bank or some other broker, it could cost you $30 to $50 just to make a purchase. And, if you're
Clay's familiar with that.
Yeah, if you're only investing a couple $100, immediately you felt like you're in the red.
Yeah, I know. I know the feeling. But what is blowing my mind and what makes me feel kind of like a snobbish kid, if you will, is I'm over here thinking, what the heck does he mean by dividend check? A dividend check? Why would that matter if he's got a... Then it dawned on me, oh yeah, he's talking like pre-internet, where if you wanted that money, there's no electronic way to do it over the internet. It's literally, let me send you a check for the dividend. Is that how that used to work?
Yep.
Again, excuse my ignorance there.
Oh, and it wasn't just yes, and that's what so the club, we wanted to avoid that. We wanted the company to just take whatever dividend was being paid and put it right back into a stock. So we had lots of fractions of stocks because of that. And we had that club for, I'm going to say, 4 years. And then what happened was interest started declining. People started having children. We didn't because I think we used to come monthly with at least $50 or $100 per person. We met once a month. So eventually people had to cut that out of their budget. Now I know, Clay, that kind of goes against the grain of your financial success story. But things slow down.
Like, I'm not having any kids because I have investments to make. That's a little too hardcore even for me. So, I mean, to hear that if people are losing interest because they have kids and commitments to their kids, that's a hall pass granted, in my opinion. At least.
And it wasn't even just interest. It was that we stopped investing. A few of us did. And then I think one couple moved away. And then it kind of just got to the point where I remember one day Mark coming and saying, well, you guys ready to just maybe dissolve this and split everything up? And so we did do that. And if I recall, that might be around the time that I've had an eSchwab account for years. And I think that when we dissolved the partnership, some of those securities were issued back out in paper stock, believe it or not. And then I took them, opened up an eSchwab account and mailed those certificates in, and then they turned them into, electronic dollars. And that was the last I saw of those paper securities. And then I pretty much on my own just let those things sit. I may have added to it here and there, but I used that account more so, savings accounts started paying less and less every year. So I was making more on my money in blue chip long-term stock investments than in a local bank. But over the years, eventually I would have to withdraw from it here and there. So my investment account got smaller and smaller. And I'm going to say somewhere so that's part of my personal story. But before I get into the rest of my personal story, let me talk about these paper shares. Let me jump to my dad and my granddad. So I started helping my dad, I'm going to say 10, 12 years ago, helping him with his finances because he was getting older and getting a little early onset dementia. So he still had all these paper stock certificates, and he was receiving monthly dividend checks or quarterly dividend checks by mail. He was doing everything the old-fashioned way and just depositing them into his account. And I had a friend that was in investments, or he was a broker, and I took everything to him, and he was blown away because I showed up with this big folder of certificates that were going back into the, I would say 1940s. And he was like, Evans, this is just blowing my mind. He was excited about it, kind of like you are. He's like, I've never seen anybody come in with this. I said, well, my dad just sat on it. So we turned all of that into a regular account and got rid of, they literally take the shares. I have to sign them over, and
then they sell them on eBay for probably 3 times the value of what the shares are actually worth.
They might. I don't know what they do. He says that they shred them, but I don't know.
Yeah, shred them is lingo for probably sell them on eBay.
And they're in the Smithsonian now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I've only had one, with the exception of what I got in the Palmetto Investment Partnership, the investment club. I did, and I still have it, but it's not worth anything now. But I worked for Apple for a short while in the 90s, and I thought it would just be cool to have one share of Apple stock. And I bought one share just to get the paper certificate so I could frame it. It was just kind of a cool looking certificate. I still have it. I might even snap a photo of it and post it in the chat room someday.
Probably wish you had a couple thousand at this point.
Oh my God, I wish I did.
An entire wallpaper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is my Apple room.
Wow. And I've owned other Apple in the past, but I've had to, sell it as I've needed money. Like I said, I was using my investments as savings, and when things hit and I needed some cash, I'd sell some things off. So
I got just real quick, ballpark year. What year are we still talking? Is this still pre-internet time, or is this when the internet's kind of new? But I guess
internet was kind of new
time wise. What year are we still like? Are we in like the late 90s? Or?
I'm gonna say late 90s, early 2000s when I had the E Schwab account, and then somewhere along the line. And the only thing I can think of is I think the same person that helped me. You know what? No, this does tie together. So my dad's stuff was probably in the early 2000s, 2003, 2004, when I took all that to him, and he converted it into a normal account and started investing some of the cash or some of the dividends that would come in, trying to make my dad some money. And he would, and that was around the time I started getting more interested in it, but still not from a trading aspect. I didn't know what day trading really was. I think by that point I knew it existed, but I knew that Charles Schwab, I think, was charging $29.95 per transaction. But E-Trade comes out, and I believe they were maybe $14.95 in the beginning, and now they're down to like $9 or $7 now.
I think they're at 5 right now, but
they might be 5. So I know
God bless the free markets.
Yes.
Competition is good.
Yes, I didn't even realize until I found your site that Robinhood existed, where there were actually brokers that didn't charge any commission. So that was
things have come a long way from what'd you say, $39.99?
I believe it was $29.99 or $39 for Schwab. Okay. So I opened up an E-Trade account because my friend got me kind of interested. He got me excited about the market because he was all excited about all. I'll go ahead and tell you, it was several $100,000 worth of paper shares my dad had. I mean, this is his retirement that he's living off of now. He was blown away. So I decided to open up an E-Trade account, and he and another friend of mine, he was investing some of my friends' money, and so I would just get tips from people. Hey, you ought to invest in this, or when you talk about penny stocks, I've only invested in one penny stock company, but I just bought and held. That's all I really knew what to do, was just buy and hold. I wasn't buying and looking to sell after a few months or anything like that. I've always thought about it as being long-term investments. It was locked into my brain, kind of how my grandfather was. He had all these stock shares that he just held on to and got dividends. He passed them on to my dad when he passed away. And now my dad's benefiting from it. So that was always been my mentality. But I did, I think I was working for a company called McKesson, and they had an employee stock purchase program, and then they got bought out. And I remember that being sent to me, and I just dumped it into E-Trade, into the E-Trade account, and I would watch it and add to it and watch it grow. And McKesson did very well in the 2000s, early 2000s. So that's
So you were, just so I understand the timeline here, you were online with E-Trade in the early 2000s, pre-.com bubble burst. Am I understanding
Correct.
context so far? Okay, so
you are.
I don't know. This is me speaking out of just guessing and assumptions, but that the stock you were talking about, were they doing well because of basically everything was doing well,
Yes.
or was it okay? So
I think it was primarily because of that, and they're
okay.
they're a big healthcare company.
Okay. But
so in general, I think they're still doing pretty well now. I don't own any more shares of McKesson.
Gotcha. But at that point, though, were you just focused on McKesson, or were you starting to? Because like I said, I was oblivious during that. That was before my time.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that the headlines were filled with, this company's doing that and this company. So were you getting suckered or sucked in by any of that?
Yes.
The financial media and starting to buy other tech stock or website stocks? Or all right, so let's pick it up things there. What exactly did you start to buy at that point?
Yeah, I started, watching Jim Cramer in the mid 2000s. And I didn't have a lot of money to invest because children, life, so on and so forth. But I would invest, and it was kind of fun to be able to go online and purchase it yourself and watch it on a day-to-day basis and look at charts, even though I didn't really understand them, Clay. But I seldom would sell. It wasn't my mindset to sell and take a profit and maybe look for it to come back down. I would sell when I needed a influx of cash for some reason or other. I've had a couple of businesses that I started, so I would sell some of my investment stocks to do that. So around the time of the 2008 crash, I didn't have a lot of money in my E-Trade account, and my Schwab account was down to just $1,000 or something. Anyway, it was just sitting there with a couple of equities, not really doing anything. I wasn't paying that much attention to it. And then 2008 occurred, and I actually was more concerned about my dad's investments because, like a lot of people that were affected, because he also worked for a bank here in Charleston all of his life. So he had a lot of shares in his retirement account tied into the bank. And I literally in one day watched his retirement account get cut by more than half. And it was scary.
Oh, absolutely.
As it was for everybody.
But we skipped one other crazy time in our market's recent history. What about the .com bubble bursting? How did that impact you guys at all in like a negative way? Because obviously 08 was huge for sure, but .com was also kind of a big deal as well. I guess it depends where you're invested.
The .com affected me a little bit because I had a little bit invested, but my dad was mostly blue chip, strong companies. It did not really affect him that much, if I recall. Not enough that I was concerned.
Nothing like 08, apparently.
08 was scary because I was his power of attorney. And when I saw, it over literally a 1 day period, especially his bank stock just dropped by over half. And I'm like, this is my dad's retirement. And he just lost half of it. Do I start selling? Do I call my broker and say, dump this? Because I didn't want to be part of the problem, because that's what everybody was doing. They were dumping, which was causing it to just go down and down. And some banks, as you know, went completely out of business. I've got a friend's father who pretty much lost all of his retirement during that because most of his was invested in a bank that went completely bye-bye. Scary stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely a very, very interesting time. I was fortunate enough to kind of watch it. I actually had a finance class while it was going on. But yeah, it was very, very turbulent times. That's for sure. So you watch your dad's retirement go down to half. Clay, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say I think the moral of your buddy's story, or your friend or whoever that was, diversify, folks. That's what happens if you put all your eggs in one basket. Reboot's dad, sure, it's cut in half, but I would assume that's because your father was also, sure, he had a bunch of where he worked stock, but from the way you're talking, he was a smart guy, so he was probably diversified, which is why it was only half as opposed to the whole thing, like some of these other people. So yeah, listeners, if anything, that's the big story or the kind of learning lesson: diversify.
Yeah, my dad was a big saver. He never really cashed in on any of those stocks that he inherited from my grandfather. And he was diversified there, had oil and had some power companies and few banks,
financials,
not a whole lot of tech, because I guess there wasn't a whole lot of tech back when my granddad was buying.
There weren't Apple,
Nope.
There's no Microsoft.
And I was a little diversified, but none of my accounts were ever huge. So I did watch my E-Trade account drop in 2008, but again, I wasn't quite that worried about it because I figured I'm young enough, it will come back. None of the things I was invested in went bankrupt. And then at some point I ended up having to withdraw some money. I went through a divorce, so I needed some money for that. And so let's say from about 2008, I quit paying attention to my own stock. My dad's is being managed by somebody else, and that's fine. So for 10 years, I basically have done nothing in the market. My E-Trade account sat there with a few securities. One of them was a penny stock that I remember buying like 1,000 shares of, and I just bought and hold, and they did go bankrupt. So I lost like $700 on that.
That's shocking to hear a penny stock company. You lost all your money on a penny stock. That's I don't think you might be the first person ever to have that happen to you. So congratulations.
Yeah, seems like I hear that story in most podcasts.
Yeah,
especially with your younger, newer people.
Yeah, but people still think that they found the diamond in the rough when it comes to penny stocks, and this is the one. This is the one that's going to do it. You realize everybody on every single penny stock believes what you believe right now. I mean, trust me, it's not the diamond in the rough.
Yep. Oh, just go up to $10 one day and I will be very wealthy.
Yeah, exactly. You get out the calculator and start to play the what if game and start to, wow, that's $700 if it goes up. Oh, okay. All right.
I got a question yesterday in the support chat. If a guy bought 20 million shares at 0001 and went to 50 cents, how much would he make? And I said, if he doesn't know how to use a calculator, he shouldn't buy it anyways. It was just a very, very, the calculator games and calculating your imaginary gains drives me nuts.
But the point there being clearly Ches, and I mean, it just goes with, this is a fun little rabbit hole, but clearly this guy was like, something he believed that he had a diamond in the rough if he thought this thing was going to go from 0.0001, and yes, listeners, if you're new, stocks that's the lowest a stock can be valued at, is point and then 3 zeros and then a 1. So for him to think that it was going to go to what'd you say, Ches, 50 cents?
50 cents, correct. 0.5, not 0.5, not 0.005, 50 cents.
That's a huge move.
That's a gigantic move that is never going to, but it just, psychology here. I assure you, listener out there, you do not have a diamond in the rough. I don't care what people on social media or message boards are telling you about this great penny stock. It's not that great, okay? Or else it's self-defeating logic. It wouldn't be a penny stock in the first place. So, anyways, that was a good rabbit hole. But you lost $700 on that penny stock.
Yeah, and these people are paying, and I understand where they're coming from. They're looking at other securities, non-penny stocks that move at least 50 cents a day or several dollars, and they think, oh well, this one will definitely move. This is a new company. They're doing great. They got a press release that makes them look like they're doing great. They're FDA approved. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, last week they were mining gold. Now they're doing marijuana, stocks, and now all of a sudden they went back to mining Bitcoin. All of a sudden, and so that's just
now they're a defense contractor for Space Force.
Yeah, there you go. And now exactly there we go. I mean, that's.
I do remember now something. I think one of the reasons why I did open up the E-Trade account was, and I could look this up, but I won't. You've heard of Sirius satellite radio?
SIRI, yep.
Yep, and I think XM, did you know there used to be XM satellite, and they merged in the 90s, or one bought the other one out?
I do not remember that, but
anyway,
that makes sense.
It was kind of a big deal because, and you've heard of Howard Stern, correct?
Correct.
So Howard Stern used to be on the normal radio stations, and then he got a huge. Anyway, Sirius and XM merged or bought each other out. They hired Howard Stern at a huge amount of money, and I remember my broker and friends going, "Oh, you need to buy Sirius. You need to buy Sirius." Everybody wanted you to buy Sirius, and I did. And you know what? I mean, I think it made me a little bit of money, but it did not do what everybody kind of dreamed or imagined it would do. So
at this point, an example. I think last I checked, they're below $5 a share. So I mean,
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I don't own any of them now.
It's definitely drifted downwards. Chez, you want to check SIRI real quick? What are they currently trading for? I guess
sure. I remember another member actually was involved before that whole Howard Stern thing kind of happened. It's about $7 on the dot, 703.
Okay, there we go.
Let's look at the monthly chart.
I'm sure a few people made a little bit of money in the very beginning, but once they realized.
Yeah, I used to trade for like $60.
Yeah,
it's down just a little bit off its highs.
Yeah, they did not get the number of listeners to sign up that they thought they would to listen to Howard Stern. I think they were banking a lot on Howard Stern.
Well, Sirius and XM, if you ever want any business consultation, I'll tell you this. It's a lot harder to get people to pay for radio when they can get it for free. But obviously they're still around, and it's $7 a share. So they're doing all right, I guess.
Yeah, they've got a tough business model right now because so much competition and internet radio, like you said, things you can get for free with a little bit of commercials.
Well, the three of us right now, we are currently crushing Siri. I mean, we are literally taking up.
Sorry, Howard.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, our podcast is free. But anyways, all right. So my big question to you is, when did the mindset shift occur? Because it makes total sense why your mindset was in stock market equals buy and hold, invest. That makes total sense. That's grandfather, your dad. And I mean, while to be fair, that's not a bad strategy at all, assuming you're doing it with good companies. So when did the kind of light bulb go on? When did the transition start to occur where you thought and kind of saw this other side of the stock market that involves more of trading?
Well, actually, Clay, it happened probably late March of this year. I knew it existed. I knew day trading existed. I know people that think they day trade for a living or used to day trade for a living or tried it. But earlier this year, I started thinking, all right, I need to pay attention to my finances a little bit better and start saving again. And I looked at my Schwab account and said, I'm going to start buying some stock again. And I wasn't really sure. I haven't watched Kramer in a while. I don't watch CNBC. I haven't been paying attention to the market for years. I haven't had the money, haven't had the time. Hasn't been a priority. So just one day, I just decided I knew what day trading was, but I decided to do a Google search on day trading. And of course, you get a lot of YouTube videos and links and all, and you happen to be in a couple of them. And so I watched a couple of you trading live, and I liked the way that you explained what was going on, and you weren't really teaching in your live tradings. But I think I then clicked on another link with some of your short videos. And I may have looked at some other ones, other people that are trying to sell their product or whatnot. But for whatever reason, and I wasn't even really researching this for any reason. I wasn't even looking into becoming a technical trader. I just was curious what the term day trading really meant and what were the ramifications around it. So I was just doing a little bit of research on that. So after I watched you and went to your site and read a little bit about it, and for whatever reason, I just had a good feeling about Clay Trader. And in several of your videos, you always end it with talking about the Inner Circle chat room. So I read about the Inner Circle chat room, and it was $99, like you say, less than $2 a week. And I was like, I'd like to learn more about technical trading. I'd like to learn more about charts. I want to be a better investor, a better trader. So I signed up for the IC and kind of just lurked around, watched the chat, watched what you posted in the pits, pulled up got a TradingView account, started looking at charts. And just listening and watching people post their losses. And one thing that I noticed was, okay, this Clay Trader guy who wants me to join his university and buy his courses, and I get that. But he's active in this chat room, and he's not coming in here and telling us what to do and telling us to buy this or or do that and you're going to be rich. You've never said that. You are a normal, true blue person.
You came at the good times before Clay was sending us photos of him on his yacht and talking about the greatest penny stock since sliced bread. But yeah, go ahead.
I think there might have been one video though. Do you have a video of you in a car somewhere along the line though, Clay?
He's got a bunch in vlogs, but I don't think he has any of those like stock tip video ones. But I kind of want to loop back into something else though, because it kind of piqued my interest here. You said you started to get interested in day trading. So if you don't mind sharing, you don't have to be specific with the company or anything like that. What do you do for work that affords you enough time to kind of day trade? Just wanted to ask that because there's a lot of people who have jobs where they just can't do that.
Well, that's a good question. I wasn't even sure that I would become a day trader, and I don't really consider myself one just yet, although I have been doing some day trading. I'm fortunate that I'm an IT support person. I've been doing IT support for years, but it led to this job where now I'm doing more database work. So I'm at a desk most of the day. I do some reports for the government. I write queries to pull data out of databases, do surveys.
Gotcha. There you go. It affords you some flexibility.
It did afford me some flexibility to, pop in and out of the chat room, keep an eye on charts if I need to. And it's flexible enough. As long as I'm getting my work done, everybody's happy. I'll work late if I need to. But I'm also trying to balance it and come up with a plan. I don't have a true plan yet. I'm still in the early learning phases of deciding where my strengths are. And I'm still going through the courses. I'm on my second go round on several of them. And I do like trading options. And in my Thinkorswim account, I've been using that more for swing trading, where I've been buying and holding for a little while and then selling for a profit. And I've done okay. I did do some paper trading for a while.
Yeah, how long, if you had to define a while, because listeners always ask, well, how long do I need to practice? And everybody usually has a different answer, but how long did you personally paper trade?
Well, I joined CTU in April 9th, May, June. I'm going to say I probably started using real money at the end of May. Day trading real money at the end of May. I did early on when I got in the IC, because I had transferred a few $100s to my E-Trade account, and it was just sitting there. And I was like, okay, I want to buy something. And in the IC, I think it might have been TNDM, Tandem Healthcare, popped up one day. And so, and this is before I even started taking the courses, but I did my own little bit of research and decided to invest that money into that in my E-Trade account.
Gotcha.
But since then, I had learned about Thinkorswim and the tools that the other members were using, and opened up a Thinkorswim account, and then I opened up a Tastyworks account because I was interested in doing some option singles, and I couldn't get approved in my Thinkorswim account, but I did for Tastyworks. But to go back to answer your question, I paper traded with TradingView, and I still do that probably for at least 6 weeks. I think I started live trading a little too soon. I don't feel like I had a perfect plan, and I'm not. I don't feel like I'm an expert at reading charts yet, although I'm getting better every day.
So too soon? What's giving you that feeling? Is it literally the results that you're getting back out at you, or is it some sort of feeling? Because sometimes people get positive results, but then it's they have that kind of urge, like, yeah, I'm getting green trades, but it's not. I don't quite feel. So what was it? Was it more so results based too soon, or just a gut feeling type too soon?
Part of it was gut at first, and then I had a few results based where I've had some losses, especially when I decided to try options where I didn't set a stop loss, Clay. And then I would go, oh, well, this option doesn't expire for a couple of days. It'll be okay. And then it wasn't. So when you lose a couple $100 in a trade, it'll wake you up.
And
so I think it would be
good.
that maybe I wasn't Clay. I probably wasn't disciplined enough. That's the big thing. I wasn't disciplined enough with my plan or my developing plan.
Now, how many of these it'll be okay type trades where it wasn't okay, how many of those have occurred?
2.
Okay, so it's not like you're sitting here and you had to, lose $2,000 because there was 10 trades at $200 a pop, and
Oh yeah.
wait, no, that'd be 5 trades.
I haven't done that.
Okay,
I haven't done that. My plan. I do have a pretty good risk versus reward strategy. But where I have failed though, and I know I have failed because I've even told myself you need to go set a stop loss right now, and especially on these options trading, and then I just wouldn't, and I don't know why. I think I've heard you say it. I've heard other people say it. A little bit of greed or a little bit of maybe it'll bounce back. It's not going in the direction I want, but look how this stock has been behaving over the last few days. Oh, it'll definitely come back.
Yeah, I think. Can I give my 2 cents on maybe why it's
definitely
hard for stop? I think, and Ches, maybe chime in here, but I think it's just a matter of your whole you've been brainwashed your entire life. As of, are you willing to say your age? You told us before we started recording.
Yeah, I'm 49, turning 50 in a couple months.
And you literally just got into trading as of the time of this, let's call it 4 months. 4 months ago, is that pretty fair?
Yeah.
So literally 30-ish years of your life, give or take, 25-ish years of your life, it's been you buy and you hold because things go up. That's what investing is. You buy and you hold. It'll be okay. Things will go up. You buy and you hold. Literally, to over 2 decades, you've had that drilled into your mind. So, I think that's probably where a lot of it is coming in, because you're just so used to the whole, it'll be okay. Just give it some more time. Oh, see, it doesn't expire till a couple of days. It'll be okay because I still have a couple of days. Long term, a couple of days. And as much as a couple of days doesn't sound like long term, from your perspective in that moment, if you're watching it minute by minute, then a couple of days might as well be like a couple of years. It'll be okay. So I think my guess would be, I think that's probably influencing it quite a bit, is just your whole buy and hold mentality. Ches, do you have any comments, feedback, suggestions, criticisms on that?
I just kind of fully agree. If it's so ingrained and it's been something that has worked and is used for many years, yeah, obviously that would be your default mentality for it. So yeah, no, that sounds absolutely perfect. And in the world of option trading, generally, and I'm just saying the way Evans is trading currently, time is not on his side. The way I trade, time's on my side, but the way he's trading, time is not on his side. But yes, this isn't you can hold, and I don't need to say hold and hope, but yes, you're not going to get a rebound when there's an expiration time.
Right. And that's what I did with a couple trades. I held and hoped.
But to your credit,
I learned a lot about theta.
And there you go. And in your to encourage you here and to give you some credit, because at least you're recognizing this very, very quickly. Like I said, it's not like it's costing you a whole bunch of trades before you think, maybe something's not quite right. 2 trades and you've already admitted it, and that's good. So I guess, what did you stop trading from that point, or?
Oh I'm still trading, and
okay.
I won't say that those are the only 2. Those aren't the only 2 trades I've had red in. Those are the 2 that were a couple $100.
Well, it sounds like those are the 2 where you just totally violated everything that you've been taught. And it just, everything went to the kind of the stuff hit the fan, if you know what I mean, in terms of rules. Is that a fair assessment?
It definitely is. So
what else are you trading then? With the are you doing straight up stocks along with options, or are you exclusively with options right now?
Oh, I'm in my Thinkorswim account. Well, I've only got one open investment right now, and that's actually in TNDM. And I was going to swing that, and I have a plan, and I've been waiting. I've been waiting on that. I've been waiting to hit my target price, which it hasn't yet, but it is also bounced up and down a lot. And I'm now kind of getting to the point where I'm ready to get out of it, and I need to come up with a new plan for it. I did do one scalp trade on, I don't remember the security now, but it was something you alerted in the chat room. one day with my Thinkorswim account and made like $100. I was very proud of myself, pat myself on the back. That was early on. And that can be addicting. That's another thing for new people. You have a couple of wins and you start feeling good. The other thing that I suffer from is seeing people, post their gains or their wins, and then you get the FOMO, fear of missing out.
Because you made an interesting comment. You start to feel good. Now, what do you mean by feel good? How did the feel good? I'm assuming there's some sort of negative connotation that kind of came with that. But why did you make that comment about feeling good? Because some people may be looking at that saying, what are you talking about? You got to feel good and you got to be confident in yourself, which is true. Sure. But I have a feeling that your definition of quote unquote feel good wasn't necessarily in, that positive type of context.
Well, I think because later I think I would get tempted to get into trades that maybe I shouldn't have, or for instance, you'd make $100 on a trade early on in your trading career. And then I start thinking, if I can just make $100 a day right now, that's really good extra money, a good revenue stream coming in.
$2,000 a month.
And then I start telling myself, okay, well that's my new goal. I just want to make $100 a day for now, and that's not always realistic.
There you go.
You can't.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I've had to learn is that not every day you should trade. I mean, there was a day last week when I was on vacation. In fact, one of the losses that I'm talking about earlier. And you've talked about this, Clay. I've watched lots of your videos and listened to some of your podcasts where you yourself have even said, if I wake up and I didn't sleep well and I'm just not feeling it, I just don't trade.
Yeah, that's me. Clay never sleeps.
Yeah, I wondered that. He never seems to sleep. But I had one of those days where, I wasn't even at my regular computer, but I decided I was gonna trade, and that was one of the ones that I had planned on setting a stop loss. All right. And then it immediately went against me. And I was like, oh man. And instead of just setting it and taking my loss and moving on and writing it off and losing maybe $50, I end up losing, a couple $100. And I told myself later, I said, you weren't in the right frame of mind. My daughter was in town. I was on vacation. I was doing this on my laptop. It wasn't the right situation, but it was a forced trade for whatever reason.
How long did it take? You said immediately went against you. Are you talking like you get in and within a couple minutes it went against you?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've really nailed the cause here, because my guess is you got in and it literally immediately went against you. So in your mind, you're like, okay, whatever, I have plenty of time, because it literally just went against me. Whereas let's look at kind of the other extreme. You get in and then it just goes sideways for like, let's just say 4 hours. If at that point it went against you, I think you would be like, I'm out of here. What? 4 hours wasted. I'm taking my $50 and going home. I've waited long enough. But because it happened immediately, with the way you've been conditioned, I think if my educated guess would be that you're like, I still got another 4 hours left. I've only been in this thing for like a minute. I got plenty of time. It'll come back. So I think that's, the whole mentality here. And that's just why trading is kind of tricky, because I think it would have been much easier to take the loss had you spent a bunch of time just kind of, watching paint dry, for example, as opposed to, oh, wow, that was quick. All right, it'll be good. So, for you, I think maybe I'm trying to think of the title for the podcast. Maybe everything will be okay. How does that? I don't know. I'm going to try to because I really think that's straight up your mentality right now due to your long-term buy and hold. But so how do you fix that going forward? I just think you just need to look at example after example where in the world of trading things are not okay, where they don't turn out to be okay, because that's you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, I have an example that some of the people have already seen in the chat room. I think I even said it today. It happened yesterday. I put in an order. It didn't get filled. I actually did go in and canceled the order. So I thought. But believe it or not, I ordered a new mouse yesterday. This is my office computer. I'm having trouble with one of the clickers. The only thing I can think of is the confirm button did not click. So I click confirm, move on to some other window, not realizing that it never got confirmed. and it pulled back. And then all of a sudden I get a text message that says, "Oh, your IQ order was filled." I'm like, "Oh, shoot."
Uh-oh.
And so I pull up the chart and it was still pulling back. And I said, well, I would not have gotten, I wanted to cancel that order. I would not have replaced the order at the same entry point had it had gone through, but it went through. But you know what I did? I didn't get emotional about it. I quickly calculated how far I was willing to let it go down, put in a stop loss. And it didn't happen immediately, but within a few minutes, I got stopped out minus $18. I'm so glad I did.
Doesn't that feel good?
Yes.
Would you ever think that it would feel good to lose $18? But believe it or not, listeners, it does feel good, right?
It does, because I kept my loss from going out of control, which I had seen as recent as a week ago.
So honestly, that's a perfect trade, because the only reason you got into it was because of logistical error. I mean, I guess moral of the story, just make sure to double check. It really was. Make sure to double check your mouse click. But it's not like you got greedy. It's not like you chased it. No, it was literally a logistical error. But after you're in the trade, yeah, that was a perfect trade for what you should have done. You honored the stop loss. You lost $18. And by no means, I'm assuming you don't have to trade like Superman, trade like some sort of superhero in order to make back $18. I mean, that's kind of unimpressive trading.
I made it back up a couple hours later.
There you go. Exactly. And that's, that's what you have to remember is, and we say this a lot, but listeners, if you find yourself having to kind of trade unimpressively to dig yourself out of a hole, that's like really good. That means you took the loss was the way it should have been. If you find yourself, wow, I need to pull out like my best trading ever to dig out of this hole, that's pretty much a sign that you must have broken a bunch of rules, because that was not a controlled loss at all. But man, you had me scared because I did not see in that chat room. So I was, wait, don't tell me he started to buy more or something like that. But good. I'm glad that you just put in the stop loss. You honored the stop loss and $18. And like you said, two hours later, you made it all back. So, I mean, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I think I ended up just, just $21 in the green yesterday, but hey, I ended up in the green. I was happy. And I was happy that I honored I set a stop loss. I didn't just, say, oh, well, you know what? It went up earlier today. It'll go back up. Because as we know, the market is unpredictable for the most part.
Honestly, though, even if you had closed down $18, I would still call yesterday a hugely successful day because of the habit that you formed, the realization that you had where you took a loss, it was a controlled loss, and you're like, oh, that actually kind of feels good because it could have been so much worse. So that's great. Yes. You close up in the green, but as I know, but trading is not necessarily about winning, because anybody can randomly win. It's about the habits that are being formed in the background, because those are what's going to carry you forward. And yesterday was a great habit. Of course, you'll learn to double check things from the logistics side. But as far as trade management, absolutely flawless. So looking at the time here, we're going to have to start to wrap stuff up. You're a great member, so I mean, I know we'll have you back. But I mean, going forward, what are some things that you are pretty confident in? What are some characteristics, attributes that you would kind of consider your strengths? I mean, yeah, with the weaknesses, we've kind of gotten on that. I mean, welcome to the club. You're like anybody else out there. But what are some things that you actually feel pretty good about yourself when it comes to trading in terms of strengths?
Some of my strengths in trading. I've developed a lot of patience, and I won't say I've conquered, but I have learned to control the fear of missing out, not just jumping in a trade because I see a lot of other people doing it and posting results. I'm comfortable with looking at the chart, deciding where I think I want to get in and what I want my plan to be. So I'm learning some strategies with that. Definitely gotten better with honoring stop losses, because that was another thing too I would do for a little while, is set a stop loss and then maybe adjust it, which can be a no-no when you're adjusting it in the wrong direction. Because I'm like, I don't want to be stopped out yet.
That's a no-no.
So it's a no-no, and I know it's a no-no, and I'm getting better I think I've already kicked that, actually. Yeah. And the other thing I'm trying to do is get back into doing more paper trading, even if I'm doing it at the same time as doing live trading, because you can strengthen your skills that way without using real money.
Absolutely.
And learn new strategies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I know the real reason you did come onto this podcast was to borrow my famous time machine. And if you were to use it and go back to any time period, you can't give yourself a buy or sell recommendation, and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
To new traders?
To yourself.
To myself. When it comes to, you know what, I think it's going to be discipline and patience, especially with day trading and learning, and not jumping in or feeling like I am already an expert at something when I know clearly that I'm not. Be patient, listen to other people, try on paper.
Sounds like you could summarize this by you want to be humble. Is that
be humble? Yeah, I like that.
I mean, because humility. I don't know everything. I need to learn. I need to listen to other people, which I think is a great bit of advice to give yourself way back when. Is this is definitely a process that you need to be humble through, or else the market will gladly humble you for yourself.
Yes.
I mean, so it's really kind of a two-door option here. It's you can either be humble as a trader when you're getting started, or the market will humble you. Either way, you're going to end up humble. So you might as well just choose to be humble rather than be humbled. Is that...
It's accurate. And Clay, and I love the Inner Circle chat room. I think of that as a classroom in itself. I pretty much have been in there every day, at least for the first 2 months. I've seen like I got in there every day, and I will watch what people post. People post pictures of their charts, and I'll try to duplicate them. Or you might post things in the pit, and even if I don't act on anything, I'll go and I'll look at the chart and go, okay, what's Clay talking about, or what's Hooch talking about, and learn that way. And so it's been a valuable resource, the best $99 I've ever spent.
And you were not paid to say that, right?
Not
just
at
for
all.
disclosure. So like, okay, just
not at all. And it only took you a week to, not even just you, other people to convince me that I needed to do CTU. I sat in the chat room for a week.
You came on board pretty quick. Yep.
Yeah, I just kind of lurked for a little bit, and occasionally would ask a question. And oftentimes, if it was directed at you, you would answer with a link, which was appropriate. And I looked at the dates. I joined IC on April 2nd and CTU a week later on the 9th.
And I remember when you first changed my life. You were good. But I do remember when you first showed up, you were asking about how do you change. I was like, all right, this guy's a techie, because you were asking some sort of technical question. I'm like, what is it? What is it? You're asking about who are leader. I can't remember. Do you remember what you were asking? But it was something where you kind of showed your card. You're like, all right, this guy is in some sort of tech field, because most people are not paying attention to that sort of stuff. But that's always what I remember about you, is when you first showed up, I knew right away you were in the tech field in some way because of whatever you were asking. But it was.
I remember something about that.
Yeah. But anyways, that's good stuff. And yeah, we like having you around. I mean, you're a good asset. I will definitely say you are doing a good job of being humble with that as your kind of goal, that bit of advice. You certainly don't come across as a know-it-all or anything like that. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have you around the community. However, that may change based on how you answer these questions. Ches has the Terminate Banhammer at the ready right now. So, choose wisely in how you answer these questions. But first question, what is your favorite movie?
I knew this was coming, and for many, many years, if somebody asked me that question, I would always answer Pulp Fiction. It's an old movie, Quentin Tarantino, but it's always been one of my favorites. Yeah, I had to watch it a couple times to even really understand the movie. It was very it ended the first time. I looked at my wife and I'm like, what was that?
What just happened?
What movie?
Yeah.
what did we just see? But it became one of my favorites. But I'm going to answer with the second one too, because when I need something to cheer me up or to make me laugh, or just a good go-to movie that cracks me up all the time, is Office Space. Love that movie.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Office Space. I mean, there's so many quotable things in there. But
there are. All right. And I've lived a similar situation to working in cubicles before, so I can kind of relate to a lot of what goes on in that one.
Just don't forget the cover sheets, okay?
Never forget the cover sheets. But Evans, what would you say is your favorite meal and dessert?
My favorite meal, I always look forward to steak night. I love ribeye steaks. So I would say that's probably my favorite meal.
That's pure
Years
America.
ago, there was a restaurant in Charleston called Cumberland's, and they're no longer here, but they had the best buffalo wings. And I would eat there at least once a week. But they went out of business, and I have not found a buffalo wing that I have thought is as good as theirs.
Well, I guess you didn't eat there quite enough then, but steak and wings, you can't go wrong with that. There's so
good
far you're passing this with flying colors. What about hobbies?
Excellent.
What do you like to do outside of the market?
I'm a water guy. Grew up on the water, so I do some fishing, a lot of boating, a little bit of sailing, and I also like to do my own car repairs. I'm kind of a pretty good mechanic, and I love home improvement. I'm real good at fixing stuff.
Well, you're not allowed to meet my wife because she likes all of those things that you just described, and I need to learn how to be better doing all of them. But Evans, it's been a pleasure having you on. Last question for you here. If you had to pick 3 words that sum up successful trading, what would those 3 words be?
Oh, I know it gets used a lot. Patience, discipline, and I don't know what the word would be. I'm going to say learning, but constantly learning. Education. That's probably it. Education.
Learning. I mean, I think either of those, that makes sense. And I like when people use the same words over and over, because when there's a common theme, usually that kind of tells you something. It's a lot of these people have the same experiences. And now that Ches and I have well over 100 data points of people and their stories, patience is a common one. So dare I say that maybe patience actually is part of this process if you want to have success. And this whole, I can just short penny stocks and I'm going to be driving a Lambo next week. That's not quite how the market actually works, despite what marketing may tell you. So patience, discipline, and learning. I'll take it. So how was this reboot?
It was
you have
great.
fun? I did. Ches and I were halfway normal.
No, I love you guys. You guys are great. I've heard your voices enough that I feel like you're already good friends. So it's good to actually have an interaction with you. That's
the vibe we're going for. So for you listeners out there in the community, if you want to come on, just let us know. I mean, it's nothing to be nervous about. We just shoot the breeze. And reboot. I kind of called you out earlier. I'm going to call you out once more. For somebody that doesn't have much to talk about, you sure had a lot of good stuff to say. So, I mean, and there's zero doubt in my mind that people will take some of your learning experiences and use that in their journey to ideally save them some headaches, save them some money. So, thank you for sharing that and being candid about it all. So, you'll come back again, won't you?
Oh, definitely.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. And I'm sure I'll see you in the chat room in like a few minutes here. But for you listeners out there, before we go, final few things. If you are listening on the YouTube channel, make sure to check out the channel as a whole. There's a lot of other videos, live trades, which Reboot referred to. There's quick tip videos. There's a vlog. There's lots of good stuff on the channel. So make sure to check out the channel as a whole. And hopefully you ultimately decide to subscribe to it. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, subscribe. And especially on iTunes, if you could leave us a rating, that really helps us out and goes a long way. And, Ches and I vastly appreciate it. And then finally, if you're listening at claytrader.com on the show notes page, leave us a comment, click that share button. We do read them. We will reply to them. So, I mean, Ches and I, we try to be as interactive as possible with people. So if you want to reach out to us, we will reply. So again, as all of you as listeners, Ches, our esteemed co-host, Reboot, our guest, I thank you all. We appreciate it. And we will see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.